Hello and welcome to episode 122 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the show of shows, and everything in between. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree. That is linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt. I am on Instagram Threads. I am on regular old Instagram. I've also been posting more on Blue Sky. You can also find me on TikTok and YouTube, among other places. And of course, this podcast is available everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and many other places. I'll mail you a Laserdisc copy of each episode if you ask for it. I don't know how much it would cost to take these files, turn them into laser discs, and then send them out. I have heard horror stories about people that buy vinyl records online because their packages get aggressively handled. Sometimes this is not really a dig at the fine folks that deliver parcels and mail and things like that. Shout out to Canada Post. That being said, I've just heard horror stories of people being like, well, there goes my Kendrick Lamar album. Damn this album. Not because the album's called Damn, but damn, they done folded my album in half or whatever the case may be. But anyways, yeah, 2025, we're going to start mailing out lasers. Sign up for my mailing list now, and I will mail you a Laserdisc copy of this episode, along with all the deleted scenes and bonus features that your heart could possibly want. Remember that time I said that thing that was so controversial and offensive that I had to cut it out of the podcast? Well, now you can listen to that, whatever that may be. We're going to talk about video games, though, and there's nothing controversial or offensive about video games, though we do have some Ubisoft news. Maybe we will be offended by the time we cover the Ubisoft story, but a decent amount of news to get to, not like big reveals, not like earth-shattering big moments or anything like that. I think what we're really looking at is a slight holding pattern until the Game Awards happen. Game Awards, I believe, are December 12th. December 12th. I'm just going to keep saying that till it's true, and if it's not true, hopefully they change the date. So, a little bit of a holding pattern, right? We're not going to get huge game reveals and stuff like that because why do it late November, early December if you're not going to do it as part of Keeley's thing, right? Whatever, Keeley's thing may be. He says it's an award show. The jury's still out in my opinion on if it's actually an award show or not. But so when we talk about news, we're going to be talking about like a little bit of sales numbers to get into. Shuhei Yoshida of PlayStation is retiring. We're going to talk about that. Hitman has been in the news, courtesy of Conor McGregor. We will talk of that. Activision is out there puffing their chest as it relates to the Black Ops 6 launch. CG Projekt is in the news. We got some other news to get to. Plus, I've been playing some games. I'm going to give you my thoughts on Stalker 2 to the best of my ability. Shortly after picking it up, I had to put Stalker 2 down for a variety of reasons. And I'm going to tell you all about that in just a moment. But first, let's get to the heart of the matter. Black Friday. What are you buying? I have decided, not because it's Black Friday, but for just pure madness. I don't have enough projects going on and personal hobbies as it is, but I decided I'm going to build a Plex server using the Mac Mini, which is a Mac Mini. A hell of a machine. It's a beautiful machine. But been doing that. So I'm in the market for some hard drives. I am looking at minimum 20 terabyte drive to get me started. And it's funny because I was looking at I have a 5 terabyte drive right now, and I believe it is getting pretty full, or it's close to full. It might be halfway full. But I was like, damn, like if this is a 5 terabyte, I'm going to need at least 20. And, my approach with this Plex server is more quality than quantity. At least that's what I think I should be going for. But That, and then also, as you may know, we have talked about this before, my M Audio M-Track Solo audio interface has started to crap out on me, so I am currently renting this UA, that is Universal Audio Volt 2 interface, which has some fun features on it, such as a vintage preamp for your audio listening needs. So this is me talking with the vintage preamp setting enabled. This is me talking with the vintage preamp setting enabled. And this is me talking without the vintage preamp setting enabled. Not using the vintage button at the moment. The vintage button is turned off. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on. I think that vintage thing is fun. And if you can't hear the difference, well, great. I'm renting it anyway, so it's not like I've invested significantly in it. But regardless, I need to get a new interface. I can't just be renting out equipment for the rest of my days. So I'm looking into something pertaining to that as well. You know, I keep my eyes peeled on game deals and stuff like that. You know, people sometimes take, you know, Black Friday and you know, Boxing Day deals and stuff like that as when it comes to games, to be like, okay, let's try to catch up on the great games that came out this year and things like that. So you might be doing that as well. Might be eyeballing some stuff here and there. I have been eyeballing stuff, but you know, I need to. I think the thing for me with games is now is the time for me to buckle down and be like, I got to start working on my game of the year list. So if I'm going to play a game, am I going to play a game to completion in order for it to potentially come up in game of the year conversation? If I return to a game, is it because it's going to meet some sort of category criteria for my game of the year awards, things like that. So when I and spoilers for Stalker 2, but like Stalker 2 is a game that is not in a state for me to want to play it for a variety of reasons, but because of the time crunch that I'm in, you know, I'm not going to bang my head on something like Stalker 2 and then only for me to be like, well, it's maybe worth like some negative game of the year awards or something like that. And also considering, you know, that game was in developed in Ukraine and Russia's illegal occupation of Ukraine and all of that shit. Like, it's amazing that Stalker 2 ever came out, but also I got to call a spade and be like, this game is not, this is not prime time ready. This is not ready for me to play. Maybe it'll be considered for like a what's old is new again game of the year award for next year or something like that. Right. And in the case of Indiana Jones, that is out in a week or two. Indiana Jones out in a week or two. And in the case of that game, like, I need to either have cleared out my schedule of games that I want to play for 2024, or that game just needs to be like some astronomical, like 9 and 10 out of 10 across the board type scenario, because I would need to get that podcast and all that work done before end of December. That's typically when I did it. When did I do actually? This is just now. If you ever wanted to know how the sausage was made as it pertains to the Glitch Report podcast, here I am looking up when I did Game of the Year last year, because I do not remember. When did I do Game of the Year? When was Game of the Year? We put out Game of the Year. Yeah, so we did Game of the Year end of the month, end of December last year. God, was that seriously a 2.5 hour podcast? Fuck me. Anyways, so I got to get that podcast done and I have to record a regular episode of the podcast on top of everything else. So that is to say that, like, you know, the rubber has to meet the road in some way, shape, or form. So my apologies to Stalker 2 for not being worth my time at the moment, but it isn't, and we'll talk all about it. But let's get to news. So just for clarification, I'm going to do a regular episode of the podcast at the end of December. I'm going to do a Game of the Year podcast for end of December. I would also like to do some short videos pertaining to some of my favorite games of the year. So potentially a scenario where I do something like, we're going to do a a top 5 list or something like that. And then maybe I'll do like a couple of videos pertaining to the top 5 games and whatnot. But, that is where I am at. I am in the middle of trying to figure out audio equipment and Plex servers, which is a nightmare of my own making. Do not feel sympathy for me. But then also I need to get it together. You know, like I got to finish Dragon Age, right? Like I gotta finish Dragon Age the Veilguard and on other things, right? So let's take a quick break. We'll get to news and then we'll go from there. All right, stick around. We will be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. Let's cover news. Star Wars Outlaws is in the news, and you know, the Ubisoft was out there talking that shit, saying, hey, we are going to turn this game around. We are going to improve it. And their kind of big brain idea was to get this game in a state that was going to be ready for when the DLC came out, and also for when that game came out on Steam. If you remember, that game released exclusively on Epic Games Store and on the Ubisoft store. Oh shit, is today the Steam Autumn sale? Oh my god. Oh shit. Okay, well now I'm just getting distracted by shit that's on the Steam sale. But the point is they wanted that guy. I loaded up Steam to load up the Star Wars Outlaws page where they said, hey, we want to get this game out and ready and all that stuff. It's currently 25% off, but it was because like, hey, we're gonna put out that Lando DLC pack. So I don't know. So as of right now, I don't know what the current state of the future plans for Star Wars Outlaws are, but it seems like they have gotten that game to where they wanted it to be in time for that Lando story pack and for that Steam release. And you might be wondering, well, what did they do? You know, if you think about, you know, people's concerns around the stealth in that game and the way that combat worked and things like that. It seemed like that was the main complaint. It's like, hey, the combat in this game isn't great. The stealth isn't very good. You know, technical issues, graphical problems, performances, yada, yada, here and there. So you might be wondering, what did they do? They have removed almost all quest objectives related to stealth in the game. That was their big idea. That was their big plan. Star Wars Outlaws will remove most of the game's instant fail stealth objectives in its update. Remember, this is the same company that made Ghost Recon Wildlands, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. They made the Assassin's Creed games. They made the Far Cry games. This is not their first time making an open world stealth action adventure game. But for some reason, it fucking bombed so hard that here they are just being like, you know what? There's no instant fail. If you get caught, you can just blast your way through it, which is funny because in a lot of these Ubisoft games, that's exactly what you can do, right? Like Assassin's Creed has not been a pure stealth game for a long ass time. You think about a game like Assassin's Creed Origins, and it's like, okay, I snuck into the base, I snuck in and, you know, stabbed a couple people, and whoops, I got caught, and now I can just fight my way out of it, right? Or, oh, in Assassin's Creed Origins, I have that remote control bow and arrow, so I can just like stand on the other side of an environment and just, you know, weave my, you know, magic arrow into some poor schmuck's skull, and away I go, right? So I don't know why they included the instant fail objectives in these stealth sections to begin with, because it is kind of the opposite of what Ubisoft has been going for with their stealth action formula for some time now. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of story missions and quests and things like that in Ubisoft's open world stealth action games that do feature instant fail, but they are not nearly as prominent and as prevalent as the ones in Star Wars Outlaws. So I would have thought they would have been able to better find a balance like they had in their other games instead of just completely removing it entirely. Let's read on. Okay. Drew Reckner, who is the game's new creative director, if you remember, there was a creative director shakeup over at the Star Wars Outlaws team, recently said player choice has always been a core focus of Star Wars Outlaws, but after listening to your feedback, we've realized there's more we can do to give you even greater freedom. Restrictions like don't raise the alarm, do not get caught in quests were forcing players into stealthy playstyles, limiting the ability to choose how to use combat or not. As a result, some quests could feel frustrating or unfair. We also found that detection mechanics could be unpredictable and inconsistent as well. Our first step in expanding player choice is removing forced stealth from almost all quest objectives. This doesn't mean that sneaking is no longer viable or even preferable in some cases. Rather, if you're caught sneaking, the objective won't fail and reset you to the last checkpoint. So that's not happening anymore. Instead, you'll seamlessly transition into combat. We know many of you enjoy the stealth approach, so it was important for us to preserve that playstyle while also giving you the freedom to decide how to tackle each mission. Now remember that back in September, Ubisoft has announced that it was working on a series of updates designed to get the game into better shape in time for the holiday season. This was also around the time that they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadow. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention about your friend and mine over at Ubisoft is they also delayed that Avatar DLC. I forget what it was called, and I have not played Avatar. It's Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. The game was originally scheduled to come out, the DLC for Avatar Frontiers of Pandora Secrets of the Spire DLC was delayed by 2 days. It was originally supposed to come out on the 26th. It's now coming out on the 28th. I don't know, man. I remember having a weird issue with Avatar's Frontiers of Pandora where I would change the control settings and then it wouldn't remember the control settings next time I went back to the game, which was fucking infuriating. Oh my God. But, you know, I think like, it's such a shame, man. I've talked about Ubisoft. I've like just, you know, shit on Ubisoft so much, but like, yo, man, I fucking loved Assassin's Creed Valhalla for the most part. You forget that like your boy GnittWitt put almost 100 hours into Assassin's Creed Valhalla this year, right? I put like 60 something hours into Assassin's Creed Origins. I've put like 100 something hours into Ghost Recon Wildlands, right? I've put a lot of time into a lot of games, man. Like, what does it say? 173 hours of Ghost Recon Wildlands. All right, maybe I left the computer on for a little bit, but still, love that game, man. Love. Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4. I've loved a lot of Assassin's Creed games. I've loved a lot of Ubisoft games. I don't know what the fuck is going on at Ubisoft. Somebody tell me. I run a podcast where I talk about Ubisoft damn near every week. Will somebody tell me just what the hell is going on at Ubisoft? Because I do not know. But maybe we'll find out more because we're going to talk about Ubisoft later on. Let's move on to your friend and mine, Shuhei Yoshida. Yoshida, what's going on? Well, Shuhei Yoshida has announced that it is time to move on and is retiring from PlayStation after 31 years. Now, one thing to note is that he is not retiring from the games industry. He is simply retiring from Sony PlayStation. If you remember, Shuhei Yoshida has been with the company for 31 years. If you can do me a favor, go to YouTube. I'll even go to YouTube with you. Go to youtube.com or whatever YouTube thing you're going to and type in how to share PS4 games. Just type in how to share PS4 games. And you're going to look for a video that says official PlayStation used game instructional video. This is an 11-year-old video in which you see Shuhei Yoshida and fellow Canadian Adam Boyes showing you how to share the used video games that you might come across on your PlayStation 4. Now, this is a reaction video to Xbox One's initial announcement that used video games would require additional authentication or an additional purchase, some sort of unlock code in order to play them, because the Xbox One was initially going to be an always online console. The entire console was going to be always online. So PlayStation decided, fuck them. We're going to show you how to make share a used video game. It is a 20-second video. And without the context of what Xbox was trying to sell people at the time, it might get lost on you. But it is perhaps one of the most savage videos I've ever seen a corporation put out in a direct response to their competitors. It is just fucking mind-blowing. But nonetheless, Shuhei Yoshida, a fun presence within Sony. Let's read on and let me tell you what he had to say. He put out news on the PlayStation blog saying, "I'm leaving Sony Interactive Entertainment on January 15, 2025. It's like announcing the launch date of a new game, something I haven't done in a long time. I've been with PlayStation from the beginning, and this is my 31st year with PlayStation. And when I hit 30 years, I was thinking, it may be about time for me to move on. You know, the company's been doing great. I love PS5. I love the games that are coming out on this platform, and we have new generations of management who I respect and admire. And I'm so excited for the future of PlayStation. So, you know, PlayStation is in really good hands. I thought, okay, this is my time." Now, for context, Yoshida joined PlayStation in 1993, a year before the release of the original console. He went on to become the president of Sony Computer Entertainment, now known as Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios. Yoshida currently serves as the head of SIE's Independent Developer Initiative, so they are trying to get indie dev to join the PlayStation platform, put out indie games on PlayStation. His role has been to look after and nurture external, smaller, independent studios. Asked what his favorite memory is from his time at PlayStation, Yoshida said the game company's journey was a highlight. He said, "One time stood out for me in my memory as something really special was when Journey got the Game of the Year award. Journey was distributed through PlayStation Network. It was a digital-only small game. You could finish playing the game within like 3 hours. But that game won Game of the Year against all these AAA titles. I think for the first time in the industry, the creator, Genova Chen, did a talk at the summit, and he talked about a letter he received from a girl who lost her father, and she thought about her father, and she was able to move on in her life." I'm not too sure what that has to do with Journey, but Journey is a beautiful game nonetheless. He said, the whole audience stood up and the whole room was filled with happiness and an amazing feeling that this small game could have such a big impact on people's lives. I've talked about the Sony shakeup in the past, as it relates to the people that they've had there, losing Jack Tretton, losing Adam Boyes, losing Andrew House. And there were a lot of real great characters at Sony. A lot of great characters at Sony, and Shuhei Yoshida, without a doubt, one of them. And to me, it just feels like an end of an era, and it has been an end of an era with PlayStation in a while. But like one of the things, like especially in that like PS4 era, when they just came roaring back after the PS3, they were taking no shit, and they were not only out there to be the opposite of what Microsoft was trying to be at the time, but also be a PlayStation that you kind of knew and loved from before the PS3 era. People like Shuhei Yoshida, people like Andrew House, people like Jack Tretton were real. Adam Boyes were really big parts of that, and now you have your dual leadership role at PlayStation. That British guy, whatever the fuck, I've already forgotten what the name of the ex PlayStation guy's name was. He left, and unfortunately, it just feels like an end of an era. And I feel like Sony is getting back to this state of arrogance, as it pertains to the pricing structure for their services, the pricing structure for their consoles, their arrogance and short-sightedness on the way the industry is moving, or the things that people don't want. I really believe that if this was like the PlayStation 4 leadership, that a game like Concord would not come out, or that a game like Helldivers 2 would not have this asinine PlayStation network requirement for the PC, right? Like, I just think there's a couple of things that would not have happened under PlayStation 4's leadership that we're currently seeing today. And Shu has been working on indie stuff for a while now, so you can't even like put a lot of this on him. Andrew Ryan. Was it Andrew Ryan? What the fuck was that old British guy's name? Andrew Ryan. I'm going to type Andrew Ryan. No, Andrew Ryan is the character from BioShock. What the hell? Jack Ryan? No. Jack Ryan is the Shadow Recruit. What the hell was the old the PlayStation leadership Ryan? I'm just going to type PlayStation Jim Ryan. Holy shit. Andrew Ryan and Jim Ryan. And it's anyways. Long story short, I mean, Sony has a lot to celebrate in general. They're continuing to sell a lot of PlayStation 5s. They continue to be outselling the Xbox. And Sony recently put out updated a website that chronicles 30 years of PlayStation. And Sony, if nothing else, can claim that they have sold they made the best-selling game console of all time. They've confirmed that the PlayStation 2 has sold 160 million consoles in its lifetime. For context, it originally came out worldwide in 2000, and it has gone on to sell 160 million units. That is ahead of the Nintendo DS, which sold 154 million units, and behind the Nintendo Switch, which sold 146 million units. And remember, like I'm not here to like discredit the PlayStation 2. It's an incredible console. It's probably Sony's best console. If it's not Sony's best console, it's the PlayStation 4. But regardless, the Nintendo Switch selling 146 million units is pretty damn impressive, nonetheless. But anyways, there is if you go to PlayStation.com, you can look at the PlayStation history and you can read all about PlayStation history if you want. But hey, congrats to Sony selling 106 million units of the PlayStation 2. Let's talk Hitman. Hit me, Hitman, one more time. Well, actually, before we talk about Hitman, we need to talk about Conor McGregor, star of that Roadhouse remake, among other things. IO Interactive, the developers of Hitman, have cut all ties with Conor McGregor following a recent court ruling against the MMA star. McGregor was last week ordered to pay $260,000 in damages after a jury at a civil trial at Ireland's High Court found that he assaulted Nikita Hand, who had accused him of raping her. My apologies for those sensitive to these types of news stories. I'm just saying it as it is written here. But ordered to pay $260,000 in damages after a jury at a civil trial found him, said that he assaulted Nikita Hand and accused him of raping her. Here's what you need to know from IO Interactive. They said that in light of the recent court rulings regarding Conor McGregor, IO Interactive has made the decision to cease its collaboration with the athlete effective immediately. We take this matter very seriously and cannot ignore its implications. Consequently, we will begin removing all content featuring Mr. McGregor from our storefronts today. Now, you might be wondering, Conor McGregor and Hitman, what the hell? Hitman World of Assassination's limited time elusive target mission, The Disruptor, features the likeness and voiceover work of McGregor and was released this summer and then returned again this month. The mission was due to be available from November 15th until December 8th and was also included as part of the free Hitman World of Assassination starter pack. So if you never played Hitman and you want to get in, you could kill Conor McGregor if you wanted to. IO had previously released a Disruptor DLC pack giving players permanent access to the ostentatious and arcade contract featuring the Disruptor, as well as new outfit items and a set of cosmetics for the freelancer house. So that's not happening anymore. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of make good or refund or anything for people who, well, whatever. I mean, it's actually, you're not, for context, they're not removing Conor McGregor from people who already own Conor McGregor in Hitman. Right? If you own Conor McGregor in Hitman, you can still kill Conor McGregor as much as you want. And some people might be wanting to do that more in light of recent news of him being in light of Conor McGregor being a subhuman piece of shit. But regardless, if you own the Disruptor DLC pack and all of that stuff, the ostentatious stuff, you still have access to it, but they're no longer selling it in light of recent news. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think IO Interactive did a damn fine job in being so quick with this announcement and with the proper actions in place. I don't think you should sell this stuff. As much as I think it's funny to kill Conor McGregor, especially in light of recent news, I don't think you should be selling stuff that has his face and name in it and stuff. And also, if he gets a cut of it, that's no good either. So I say thumbs up to IO for pulling this Hitman Hitman content featuring Conor McGregor. Activision says that Black Ops 6's launch month was the biggest ever for Call of Duty. Now, you know around these parts that the video game industry is incredibly secretive. They tend not to give specific numbers and details as it pertains to sales figures and player engagement and so on and so forth. It's usually pretty vague because they would rather skirt around the truth than actually say what it is because, reasons. I guess maybe because the game industry tries to treat itself like a tech company where they want to keep a lot of their secrets close to the chest, vest, whatever. Whereas if you think about the movie industry, how much money it costs to make Red 1 and how much money Red 1 or Nosferatu or Terrifier or whatever made at the theaters. I wish with every game loving fiber in my being that the game industry would just move on to it sold this amount of copies, it cost this amount of money, so on and so forth. But I think maybe because the industry is such a young industry in comparison with something like movies. Regardless, they say it was their biggest month ever. What does that mean? Let's read on and find out. Here's what we know. Sorry. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella commented on the game's early performance during the company's first quarter earnings call last month. So here's what Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, had to say. He said the launch of Black Ops 6 was the biggest Call of Duty release ever, setting a record for day one players as well as Game Pass subscriber adds on launch day. And unit sales on PlayStation and Steam were also up over 60% year over year. This speaks to our strategy of meeting gamers where they are by enabling them to play more games across the screens they spend their time on. Now, Matt Piscatella, we've talked about Matt Piscatella in the past. He is the executive director of video games research firm Circana and said in mid-November that Black Ops 6's Game Pass release has had an unprecedented impact on player engagement. Call of Duty engagement following the release of Black Ops 6 can only be defined by the term bonkers, he wrote on Blue Sky. We've yet to see anything like it in our engagement tracking data. And last week he said Call of Duty Black Ops 6 to Game Pass did a few things in the US. It resulted in subscription spending boost, shifted share of full game sales to PlayStation, did not appear to result in massive cannibalization of sales, and did not appear to provide a significant boost to Xbox Series hardware. Interesting. Okay, so most people who bought Call of Duty Black Ops 6 bought it on PlayStation, who paid for a copy to own of Black Ops 6. Most of the people who did that did so on PlayStation. It did not sell less copies despite it being on Game Pass. And people did not go buy an Xbox Series hardware in order to get Black Ops 6 on Game Pass, which just goes to show you just how many people play Call of Duty on PlayStation and do not give a fuck about the Xbox. Not that there's anything wrong with liking Xbox, but anyways, Matt Piscatella says, so all the open questions regarding the impact of the subscriptions are still pretty open in my opinion, but whatever one believes currently, well, not sure this of biggest tests is changing anyone's mind either way yet. Really makes you think. Really makes you think that like the people who have Xboxes are not buying games. Typically not buying games. And people who have PlayStation will buy Call of Duty because they fucking love Call of Duty. Don't really know what else to say about that, to be honest, but it's interesting. The Witcher 4. So we've talked about CD Projekt Red as well as Remedy's kind of delivery of development updates, right? They talk about this game is entering pre-production, this game is entering full production, so on and so forth. We can now confirm that The Witcher 4 has entered full-scale production over at CD Projekt. And the CD Projekt Red has stated that the most intensive phase of the development for The Witcher 4 is happening right now. The chief financial officer over at CD Projekt said, I'm pleased to announce that several weeks ago it moved on to full-scale production, which is codename Polaris, which is everyone is saying is The Witcher 4, the next entry in The Witcher, but also meant to be the next, saga in the Witcher series, not maybe following directly from The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Of all our projects, this is currently the most far along, and we're starting the most intensive phase of development. I wish to thank the team, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for further progress. The game director said, I'm thrilled to announce that the Project Polaris has entered the full-scale production phase. So this is exciting. This means that the next CD Projekt game will probably be The Witcher 4, whatever they end up calling it. They seem to be done working on Cyberpunk. They're done working on The Witcher 3. So now kind of what you can expect from CD Projekt. And I really just appreciate them just being upfront about it, right? Even if you don't see footage of the game coming along, even if they don't show a lot of stuff, it's more telling than showing. It still gives people an idea of like, okay, it's entered full production. We'll probably see that game in 3 years minimum, right? Like we're probably 3 years out from The Witcher 4, right? Probably by the end of the PlayStation 5 console generation will probably be when we see The Witcher 4, unless they've done so much pre-production and so much work to it, and they're so I still don't think it would be I think it's like that's a 3-year thing minimum. But what do I know, right? They don't give us updates. Like, hey, we're expecting it out in 2027, 2026. They don't do that stuff. But anyways, good news. The Witcher 4 is in full production. I've tried to move away from talking about sales numbers because of how vague they are in the games industry, right? Where, that Call of Duty story I just, reported to you is really a big helping of fucking nothing. It's not a lot of specifics, right? It gives you an idea of what's going on, Game Pass, PlayStation, whatever, but it's pretty vague. So going forward, when I report on sales numbers, I would like a number. I would like to be like, here is a number. This is what I think that number means, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about Balatro. Reports coming out that Balatro has made over $4 million just on the mobile release of the game since it came out. We're not talking the PC version. Remember, that game originally came out on PC and then made its way to consoles and then made its way to mobile, right? We're talking about $4 million just in the mobile version alone. $4.4 million. Remember, this game primarily made by one person. Absolutely incredible. As first reported by Pocket Game, I'm getting this news story from Video Games Chronicles. As always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles. But as first reported by Pocket Gamer, information provided by AppMagic claims that the game saw a sharp increase in revenue on November 18th the day the game received 5 nominations for the Game Awards, including Game of the Year. As a reminder, the game has been nominated for Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Independent Game, Best Debut Indie Game, and Best Mobile Game. Since release, Balatro has received several collaborations, including special decks themed after The Witcher, Vampire Survivors, Cyberpunk, and more. Celebrating 2 million copies sold earlier this year, developer Local Thunk revealed that the game's first major update would be coming in 2025. This update will bring new ideas and strategies to the game, and as a token of huge appreciation, the game's brilliant and passionate community, the update will be completely free. And I would just like to say that Balatro is one of the best video games that I have ever played, and it is one of the best games that I have played since Vampire Survivors, in my humble opinion. Like, it's just an incredible video game. And I'm so excited to see the success of that game. I'd be very curious to know what sales were like on PC and whatnot. But hey, congratulations to Balatro for being incredibly successful. Best of luck at the Game Awards. So a game like Balatro can confidently say, hey, we're going to put out an update in 2025. It's going to be completely free. How do you like them apples? A game made by one person. And then you have a game like Mortal Kombat 1, where their future DLC plans have been in doubt since the reception of its recent update. Before we get into this, I just want to say that, like, I don't understand how these game companies can put so many of their eggs in one basket. This idea that, like, okay, we're going to make Mortal Kombat 1. Yes, we're going to make a sequel to Mortal Kombat 1 down the road, but we're going to plan a whole ambitious multi-year, potentially multi-year. I don't know. Mortal Kombat 1 came out last year, didn't it? Didn't Mortal Kombat 1 come out last year? When the fuck did Mortal Kombat 1? Oh, I should probably know this, but when did Mortal Kombat 1 come out? Mortal Kombat came out last year, September last year. So, okay, so potentially multi-year plan to have updates and characters and all that stuff. And also, the reason this plan is so ambitious is because they plan on selling you a lot of this additional content, right? Like, you can go buy Ghostface right now for Mortal Kombat 1. How much is Ghostface? Just for context, how much is Ghostface? Oh god, there's so many characters. Ghostface is $10. So if you want to play as Ghostface in Mortal Kombat 1, it's going to cost you 10 bones. However, if you want to play as Homelander, he's currently on sale for $5. Anyways, what is this Combat Reigns collection? What is the... Okay, so they did a Chaos Reigns story expansion. Yes. They did the Chaos Reigns story expansion that people did not seem to care for. They did not seem to care for that game much at all. The Combat Reigns expansion is, how much is that on its own? $70. They were charging $70 for the Chaos Reigns expansion for a game that also cost $70 when it came out, or whatever it ended up costing. My point is I don't understand how games like Mortal Kombat, it's a popular game like Mortal Kombat, though it seems like Mortal Kombat 1 maybe not as popular as whatever the last Mortal Kombat was. I just don't understand how they can put so many of their eggs in one basket for one expansion to flop, and then for them to be like, oh, well, we were going to do a second story expansion, that has been canceled. We were going to do a third combat pack of characters, that's been canceled. Like, where is the confidence in their games? And not only that, how do they prevent post-release content from being such a disappointment, right? Because now it's like, well, fuck, now we have to, we weren't going to do another Mortal Kombat game, but now we might as well start working on a whole new Mortal Kombat game because the post-release content was so fucked that people don't want to play Mortal Kombat 1 or buy more Mortal Kombat 1 content anymore. Now, I would argue that one of the reasons that people have grown to dislike the updates that Mortal Kombat have received is, I think, due to just how greedy, how expensive, and how unnecessary some of the updates and some of the additional content have been. Now, keep in mind that I am not a Mortal Kombat expert, but when I look at them selling classic characters that should have been in the game at launch, a story expansion that goes nowhere for a main game that has a story that kind of doesn't go anywhere despite being a reboot. The whole reason they called it Mortal Kombat 1 is because it's supposed to be a reboot of the story, and they don't seem to really commit to that much either. It just makes me wonder, like, what is the point? I guess is my question. Like, what is the point? Like, they're selling, you know, you can unlock stuff that you would have just been able to, you can buy unlocks. From what I can tell here, looking at this list of DLC, it's like they can sell you shit that you could have just unlocked by playing the game, which sounds completely fucked if you ask me. But anyways, here's what we need to know. So this is according to a Reddit user, Fate Unknown, a user with a track record of revealing information about forthcoming Mortal Kombat content. A third combat pack, which is their bundle of DLC characters, and a second story expansion were planned, but have since been canceled. This was reportedly due to what they claim were low sales of Chaos Reigns, which was the game's premium story expansion. Chaos Reigns was released earlier this year for $50 US. The package included new story content and the second combat pack featuring new characters. The DLC was received poorly by fans, however. Based on 68 Steam reviews, the package has a mostly negative rating, with fans complaining about the lack of content offered in the expansion. This week saw the release of Ghostface from Scream, the 10th DLC character in Mortal Kombat, and the 4th to be added as part of the Combat Pack 2. Combat Pack 1 added Omni-Man, who is from Invincible, whatever the fuck that show is called on Netflix, or not Netflix, Prime. So you got Omni-Man, Quan Chi, Peacemaker from the Suicide Squad, Ermac, Homelander from The Boys, and Takeda Takahashi. In Combat Pack 2, you saw Cyrax, Sector, Noob Saibot, and Ghostface. Following Ghostface, they have already announced that the T-1000 from Terminator 2 and Conan the Barbarian. It's a shame they couldn't get Conan O'Brien for this. Oh, could you imagine? Fuck Conan the Barbarian. I want Conan O'Brien in Mortal Kombat 1. Could you imagine the fatality if you just like fucking, you know, split someone's like face in half using the power of his majestic hair? Or maybe you get like Andy Richter in there as like a as like his backup, right? Andy Richter just like pulls out a gun or something, just shoots somebody. Ooh, maybe we can get Triumph the Insult Comet Dog if we're gonna get Conan O'Brien in Mortal Kombat. But anyways, the point is, you know, they already announced additional characters. These are guest characters, such as characters from Terminator 2 and Conan the Barbarian, but they have not confirmed a release date for these games. But it just seems like a rocky road for Mortal Kombat 1, man. It's such a shame because Mortal Kombat is an incredible fighting game. Like, you go back to the Mortal Kombat reboots and Mortal Kombat 9, the reboot, Mortal Kombat 10 and Mortal Kombat 11, incredible games. I think Mortal Kombat 11 is a pretty damn good game, all things considered. It's just such a goddamn shame what has happened with Mortal Kombat 1. I'm not saying Mortal Kombat is dead or anything like that. Like, don't yell at me about such tomfoolery, but it's a real shame to see what has happened with Mortal Kombat 1. I got one more news story. This is maybe more of a rumor than it is a hard report. But I wanted to read this because this goes back to my question of what the fuck is going on with Ubisoft. And we're going to take a quick break and I'm going to ask the question, what the fuck happened to Ubisoft? And we'll talk about the games that I've been playing when we come back. Stick around. Welcome back to the podcast. And I would like to again ask the question, what the fuck is going on with Ubisoft? I'm getting this news story from Game Rant. A Ubisoft insider has shared that people at the company have reached out to Valve being the people who own and operate the PC video game storefront Steam, asking to limit the visibility of player count data. So if you remember, I often will reference concurrent player count on Steam when talking about the popularity of a game and things like that. The other way that you can kind of gauge the popularity of a game on Steam is based on user reviews. You need to own the game in order to review it on Steam, right? So you can look at player count if you want, but you can also look at, how many people have reviewed a game. And typically, we are often, well, not always, but sometimes people are referencing, player count and things like that because a game is not doing amazing, right? It's like, wow, this player count is not hot. It is not hot whatsoever. But anyways, that is a way you can judge, how that stuff goes. Here's what I wanted to say is that, from the story, concurrent player count has become a valuable source of information in the gaming industry, especially when so many video games, including online community aspects, are enhanced by their popularity. Despite how important these numbers can be to players, the plan could help Ubisoft in the long term. Many gaming companies have become more protective of the data surrounding their latest releases. Although tracking stock prices can give people an idea of how a business is doing overall, the ability to see player data and sales numbers numbers varies depending on the company and the title. Square Enix has struggled recently, and the company has chosen to leave sales updates on titles like Final Fantasy XVI more unclear. Ubisoft has taken a couple of hits throughout 2024, and its executives may want more control over some of these statistics. An MP First report sourced to Fandom Pulse discusses information shared by a Ubisoft insider, stating that the company has requested that Valve limit access to player count data on Steam. According to these rumors, Ubisoft would like the concurrent player counts for games on Steam either hidden or removed entirely, noting dissatisfaction with the way players and press outlets often talk about these metrics. In some cases, gamers will use Steam player count data to indicate a video game's success, and the company wants to paint a more favorable picture to investors, which is in quotes, who may otherwise be discouraged. According to the insider, Ubisoft is one of several other companies that have requested Valve hide this feature. The development could spark conversation about transparency regarding the productions of games, how press talks about them, and what data the public has right to access. Valve and its platform Steam have often been praised for their approach to gaming and its community. Although Valve tends to stay quiet until a release is ready to be shared, Steam generally focuses on prioritizing openness with its audience. This reported move to limit Steam player count data by Ubisoft could be prompted by some recent difficulties with the company. However, the company has otherwise expressed interest in pursuing an approach more similar to Steam's. So, if we go to, I believe it's Steam database, SteamDB. Let's take a look at SteamDB. Let's go to SteamDB and Star Wars Outlaws. All right. Star Wars Outlaws came out on the 21st. Okay? Star Wars Outlaws came out on the 21st. And you might be wondering, how many people have played Star Wars Outlaws? Or more specifically, when people were playing Star Wars Outlaws on Steam, how many people were playing Star Wars Outlaws on Steam at the same time? Star Wars Outlaws came out on Steam on the 21st. It is now the 26th. Sorry, 27th as of the time of this recording. 2,492 players were playing Star Wars Outlaws on Steam at the same time. Currently, there are 1,606 people playing Star Wars Outlaws on Steam right now, with 1,718 being the 24-hour peak. I'm going to look up another Ubisoft game. Let me just... What's another... Give me another Ubisoft game. How about Assassin's Creed? I'm going to type in Assassin's. Okay. Oh God, my headphones are all funky now. Okay, we got Assassin's Creed. We'll pull up Assassin's Creed Mirage. We'll pull up Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Where charts? I want charts. Well, if we look at, I'm just pulling up some data here. Please bear with me. Okay, we'll reference Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There are more in the last week. When did, hold on, sorry, I should, you know what I really should have done? Please bear with me. I'm trying to read you data, but let me go back to, no, get me out of this. Where is Star Wars Outlaws? Okay. So, Assassin's Creed Valhalla has more people playing it right now than Star Wars Outlaws. There are 2,113 people playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla on Steam right now, compared to 1,625 people playing Star Wars Outlaws. Now, in fairness, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a cheaper game. It's been a bit, but it's also been out for a lot longer. But its 24-hour peak was still higher than the 24-hour peak for Star Wars Outlaws. And this game has the words Star Wars in it. I don't know, dude. Like, when you look at those numbers, it doesn't look amazing. But also, think about how obscure this data is that I'm referencing in the first place. Like, I've said it time and time again. We are using the data that we have available, and these game companies want less data available to consumers so that they can, you know, fucking blow smoke up investors' asses. Like, it's such bullshit. It's absolute trash. I'm so annoyed. I'm so mad at Ubisoft for trying to take away what little data we have available to gauge the popularity and success of video games. It is fucking disgusting. So when I hear this, when I think about the release of Star Wars Outlaws, when I think about what they did to The Crew, which is not an amazing video game, but whatever. My question is, do they want less people to play their games in general? Like, do they want to just earn so much ill will that, like, Assassin's Creed Shadows bombs regardless of how long they have it in development for? Like, what the fuck is going on at Ubisoft? Somebody please tell me, because the more I read news stories about it, the more questions I have. We should have more data available in video games, not less. Ubisoft should get their shit together, be a company that people actually want to support, make video games that people actually want to play, so that when the data comes around, we can actually celebrate the success of Ubisoft. Like, what's the data around Skull and Bones? Are people still playing Skull and Bones? I know it's an online game, you know, with pirates and shit. Are people still playing Skull and Bones? How's that going? Right? Like, I know they have success in Rainbow Six Siege. Don't get me wrong, that's a very popular game, continues to be. But goddamn, they want less data available? Man, fuck that. All right, let's talk about the games that I've been playing. Let's talk Stalker 2. Stalker 2 came out last week. Stalker 2 is an open world, post-apocalyptic, first-person shooter developed in Ukraine during the illegal occupation of Russia. It is out now on PlayStation, PC, Steam. That's where I'm playing it. It's made by your friends and mine over at GSC Game World. Now, one thing I just want to do is just kind of pull up the history of Stalker 2 for just a moment. Oh, no, I actually need Stalker games. That's what I need. There we go. All right. The last Stalker game came out in 2009, so it has been a while since we have had a Stalker game. With all of that said, Stalker 2 is a ambitious, unique, and cool game. It is hard. It is brutal. It is a, you know, kind of rough, dirty sort of game. You know, it's the type of game where like the first person shooting is not amazing because the firefight should feel fucked up. They should feel tense. They should feel unpredictable. They should feel scary. They should feel, you know, bad, right? Not bad in like bad shooting and controls, but just like, oh, I just got like dudes just fucking jumped me and now I'm outgunned and this is bad. And oh shit, you know, like radiation is killing me. I'm bleeding. I need to apply bandages to myself. Like, it is supposed to be a stressful kind of open world first person shooter. And when it came out, I was willing to meet it where it's at, man. I was willing to be like, okay, I will let this game beat my ass until I figure out how to approach it on its terms. I was willing to meet it where it's at. The problem that I have with Stalker 2 is that it is technically kind of a mess, right? It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't look amazing considering how poor the frame rate can be at times. It's especially noticeable when it's a big open world with post-apocalyptic bad stuff happening. So when you are wandering around, it's kind of deserted, right? You know, the way the post-apocalypse can look. But when you enter something like a town, and it has to load all of the buildings, all of the people, all of that area in that densely populated area, it does stuff where the frame rate just takes an absolute just nosedive. And it feels like you might as well be hitting a loading screen because of how stuttery and janky loading those open world environments once you go from deserted wasteland to a town can be. So it's just one of those things where, like, I think the game needs a lot of work, and I am willing to meet it where it's at. I would like for that game to be good. I would like to enjoy that game, but I would like to meet it where it's at. But I think that's going to require me to wait probably until the new year for them to significantly update and improve that game. If you've ever played, Fallout 4 or Fallout 3, if you've ever played the Metro games, Stalker's kind of going for that, but more of an ambitious open world that is unforgiving and punishing and brutal compared to something like Metro, which is kind of, punishing and brutal, but is a very linear, straightforward first-person shooter, similar to like the way Call of Duty is a straightforward. The Call of Duty campaigns are very straightforward in that regard, right? So I would really like to like Stalker 2, but as of right now, I don't think it's in a position for me to even want to play it. So I'm going to give it a pause for now, but that's kind of my thoughts on Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl. So that really leaves me with Dragon Age, the Veilguard. I have now met a new companion who is has a griffin, a little baby griffin with him, who the baby griffin's often cute. His name escapes me at the moment, but I continue to pick away at Dragon Age. I'm hoping to come back in the next week or two being done Dragon Age, but that, considering how slow I've been with playing the game and how much stuff I got going on outside of work, I don't know, or outside of work and life and this podcast, I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I would like to continue to play more Dragon Age. Here, drink every time GnittWitt comes back to this podcast saying, I would like to play more Dragon Age than I currently am, which is probably a good thing. That probably means that I like it. It just means I haven't spent as much time with it as I would personally like to. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled on this Steam sale. If I come back with any game purchases, you'll be the first to know. I would like to get into Sulaco. I would like to play Hades 2, which is, both of those games are in early access, but you know. Tekken 8 came out this year. That's a video game. Angerfoot came out this year. That's a video game. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled on what is going on with the Steam sale. UFO 50, supposed to be a hell of a game. I'll keep my eyes peeled on all of that stuff, okay? And we're gonna wrap this podcast up. I've been playing games, but I need to get back to playing more games. And the sooner I do that, the more I can, you know, the better I can be on this podcast for next week, being like, oh my God, Dragon Age, I met all these people, all this stuff. Anyways, that's gonna do for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree. That is linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch. I am on YouTube. I am on Instagram and Threads. I am on Blue Sky. I am on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you all next week. Take it easy.